Creative expression can help kids to express their emotions and to work through difficult experiences. But unlike art therapy, we don't require going through rigorous academic training or getting any certifications. Instead, you can just go online and go through some of our trainings offered there, or come in person and see us, and we'll help you get ready to run a program. People run Art with Heart programs for a lot of different reasons, and as you identify the needs of your participants, you might be thinking about social emotional learning or therapeutic goals that you might have for your young people, or maybe you're going to use art as a tool for social justice. Whatever the needs of your clients or your participants, you'll find that healing comes out of creative expression. When you're starting your program, you're going to want to prep. You want to make sure that you have a quiet room. A sink is always helpful because you're going to need to rinse out brushes and things like that. And make sure that you have buy-in from the people that you're working with. Make sure that you get your supplies all together. If you have them ahead of time, you're going to feel a lot more prepared. And then make a sample of any activity that you're going to be doing ahead of time. But make sure that you only give yourself the same amount of time that you're going to give your participants so that they don't feel overwhelmed because you've created a masterpiece that they only have 10 minutes to work on. Priming is a great opportunity to help kids to get focused and bring them into the here and now. It sets an intention for the art activity that you're going to do, and it's kind of a low barrier way to do that because it doesn't require as many skills as maybe the art activity is going to be requiring. Priming can include visualization, sketching, free writing, and list making. Priming is a great opportunity for kids to help regulate even when they're feeling self-critical or anxious, because it's an approachable introduction to the art materials that you're going to be using, and because it's an approachable introduction to the purpose and the process of art making. Priming also helps kids to come into the present because sometimes we don't know where they're coming from. They might be experiencing some dysregulation in school or at home, and so helping give them something that's a simple task to get started on brings them into the here and now and introduces them to the art activity in a just really practical, simple way, and that gives them an opportunity to either self-regulate or identify that maybe they need some help with regulation, and they can just check in with you as a facilitator. Once you've completed priming, then you get an opportunity to introduce the art activity, which kids are often looking forward to. And when you do that, you want to show them the materials that you're working with and also show the sample that you've created. But make sure not to keep that sample up because they might want to compare their work to yours, and that can be really difficult for them. And if you have an activity that's more complex or difficult, you may want to do a demonstration as well. And if you're going to do that, bring the kids up close where they can see what's going on, so they can see all of the elements of the work that you're going to be doing. And after the demonstration, then you'll put those things aside and then bring them all to their tables to continue doing the art activity with all of the materials that you've introduced. So it's really important to stay engaged as a facilitator. You might be tempted to just stay up front and kind of observe from the front, but one thing that can be really helpful is to make sure that you have plenty of adults in the room so that you can all kind of circulate and be involved in the process of art making with your participants. And I suggest to kind of sit down at each table and check in with students. You can more easily identify if anybody is becoming overwhelmed by circling around the room. You can sit quietly and work on your own art project with them. Grab a piece of paper and work on some of your own free writing or doodling, just so that you can be engaged with them. And then if anybody does become overwhelmed, you're more easily available to respond to them in that case. Group discussions offer a chance for young people to share their emotional experience, because sometimes things have come up during the art activity or the priming, and it also helps them to connect with one another. This is a time for them to see that they've all taken some risk in the process of being a part of this group, and to see that they have shared experiences. It's an opportunity for them to build community in that way. Group discussion is a really important part of our overall program, and we want to make sure that you always have some kind of discussion. There are a number of ways to do that. It doesn't always have to be just that big group discussion where everybody's participating in one group, but you could have smaller groups or have maybe one-to-one talking, or you could do it in a more creative way where you have each partner at a table share their art with each other and talk about their emotional experiences that way. You don't always have to do it in maybe what's a traditional form of group discussion. So think about your audience, think about the participants and what feels good to them, but just make sure that you give them a chance to share their experience. Some easy ways for kids to share their art are having a communal table where everybody just puts down their art and the kids can walk around and nobody even has to say anything in response to them. They can just observe, and that can be a really powerful way for them to see the experience of making art and feel proud of what they've done. You can also have a share chair where someone comes and sits and they share together, or a talking piece where the person who holds the talking piece is the one who gets to share either about their emotional experience or shares their art. Sometimes in these programs, kids will feel really big emotions, and you might not see that come up in the art activity, but they might be feeling it internally. And discussion is an opportunity for them to share something or to hear somebody else that has had a similar experience from them. And so one of the reasons why we really value discussion is that it's an opportunity for those kids to reflect on the shared experiences, including those emotional experiences where those big feelings have come up and maybe someone else has a way of managing that big feeling that they didn't know about. And so they can learn by observing, learn by hearing from their peers, as well as the facilitator. It helps them to regulate without having to disclose the things that are going on internally for them. It's a safe way for them to observe and learn about emotional regulation through creative expression and through the group, through their peers. And so that's one of the reasons why we really make sure that discussion is always a part of our programs. Kids are often really excited to share their art, and as facilitators, we want to give them a lot of feedback that's positive and encouraging, but sometimes we can make some judgment statements or some value statements about how excellent it is or if it looks different compared to another student's art. And it's really important not to make any judgment statements because the kids can feel like they're comparing their art to one another, and maybe they're going to start making their art for you so that they can get that positive feedback once again. And we really want to encourage them to work on the process and make things that are for themselves rather than to get to that end product. So rather than making judgment statements, work on using things like your curiosity. Ask questions about why someone made something that way. Ask about the colors that they used or the shapes that they created. And just really try to get into the kid's head. What's going on in there? How did you create this? Rather than making those value statements about what's excellent or beautiful or things like that.